Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Serious Strategy Game and we are returning to Ruled Waves 3. I have played a couple of turns off camera simply because not much was happening and yeah, nothing to really show you, but I do think now it is time, because just last time around there was an event that basically shot up our tensions here, especially with France, but also with UK, and interestingly enough with Germany, which is somewhat curious. But on the other hand, we are currently in a technology sharing agreement with Germany, which makes it super useful because that is giving us some benefits there. Now, we evidently don't have the money to immediately build any ships or anything like that, but I do want to make sure that we are ready if war comes now. And one of the things that we have currently is all of these mothballed fleets. I think it's good to at least pull these guys back into reserve. And we probably also want to get our reserve fleet into active status at this time. At least, you know what, the major fleet ships, I think it makes sense to pull these guys into active duty. And we should probably say the same about our air groups. So select all, let's get you to be active. That means we're bleeding money right now. So we can't sustain that for too long. But I do think it is going to be a good choice to get everyone off to snuff a little bit. And make sure that everyone is trained up fairly efficiently, and hopefully that is going to be okay. Now, 5 million, that is not something that we can afford for a long time, so let's go ahead and halt the construction on this ship here too. That at least gives us 4 turns or so, which probably isn't enough, but I think at least maybe we're going to get something here. Now, one of you also mentioned, and I didn't even notice that, so thank you very much for telling me, is we don't even have a torpedo bomb in our fleet, so that's really sad, and we are working on fixing that. But yeah, that is something that needs to be done. Also, in between episodes, I did set up divisions for everyone here, so that should hopefully be a-okay. Let's see where the war is going to break out. Oh, but before we do that, I actually wanted to show you guys one more thing, and that is how we can get and rebuild design. So basically modernize a couple of our ships. And we're going to pull off these guys here, which I think are our best currently active battleships. They've got 13-inch guns in sort of a nice layout. They've got a good deck armor, so they're good for long-range engagements, relatively speaking at least. They also have decent secondary guns, which also have already dual purpose. So pretty good ship all in all, but if war breaks out now, I think there's one last thing that we can squeeze in, and that is we can go from improved directors to advanced firing directors, which just make these ships a little bit better. That is costing us 4 million, but only taking 3 months, so hopefully that would be a-okay. There are also a couple of other things that we should think about, and one of them is AA directors. We don't currently have any, so I think getting these up to at least 3, maybe 4. And you know what, some more medium guns as well, as long as our topside and our remaining weight does allow for that. I think that would be a good idea. Let's briefly also check whether we have any torpedoes, anything else that we think would be a little bit wasted on a ship like that. The answer is no, everything is fine. So yeah, let's do it like that. I think we can stick on a couple of more light AA guns here, and then more medium guns. Let's just bring that up to the degree possible. Like so, 28 light, 60 medium, 3 directors. I think that's good. We do have weight remaining. We've got the good, decent topside load. We can check whether everything is okay. This is going to cost us 4.5 million, which is not cheap, but I think that's good just to get our best ships to be a little bit better protected, have more heavy AA, medium AA, and light AA, and just be able to fire a little bit better. So I think that's a good one to change. We could also change the machinery and potentially make these guys faster. We've got 300 tons to spare, and replacing the machinery would make that a lot better too. But I'm going to actually save and finish here. And before we, you know what, yes, we can rebuild you. That is going to cost us some money. But I would also like you to show you how this open design for rebuild could work if we replace the machinery. Right now, without all of the other changes, this would have spare capacity of 500 tons. If we did that just because modern machinery is a little better, we would gain 300 tons. But notice the costs of doing that. 12 months, 17 million. That is hugely expensive. Now, one of the nice things about that is we could potentially dial up the speed to a certain degree until it becomes a battle cruiser. You know what? That doesn't matter too much. But it can't even go faster than 30 knots. So 30 knots is the limit that the hull will allow for. That might be, yeah, that would be not the best weight there. With a diesel, it would even be worse. Gas turbine would probably be better, but that's not something that we've invented yet. So yeah, we could do that, but 35 million, that is a mouthful. So we're not going to do that. We're simply going to rebuild these guys to the 1936 standard, which I think is a decent modernization after 20 years, which I find very hard to believe. That is, of course, going to cost us some money, 1.5 million per turn for each ship, so 3 million in total. But I still think this is a worthwhile investment. You know what? Let's hold the construction here on the light cruiser for a moment as well, because I want to have at least the capacity to last for a couple of turns here, because we are really, really hurting now. A local warlord in China. So we could support the uprising. You know what? We're going to send a force there. Our intervention has failed. That's not good. But we are seeing at least the Chinese battleship. Oh, Jesus, look at that. Really? China in 1936 has a 63,500 ton battleship, which is way bigger than anything we can build, with 11 17-inch guns and 14 inches of belt armor, 17 inches of deck armor. Really? This is their brand new battleship. And 20 5-inch guns. This is a monster. I don't even know whether Yamato had that sort of parameters. Yamamoto. Jesus, we can't stand up to that. Now, I'm guessing they don't have many of these, I'm guessing, but 3,000 tons, that's decent. But oh my. Also better AA, that's all very good. And deck lifts, so that's also pretty nice. We should basically check on that in a second here. Oh, we've got another float plane that has been provided as a private venture. Now, I don't actually think this is better, because the max speed here, that is to me a pretty important parameter, so no, we're going to cancel that. And we're running very high tensions with Great Britain, which is horrible because they've got the strongest navy by far. They've got 11 battleships to our 8. Yeah, that's already pretty bad. They've got 4 aircraft carriers to our 2 that are currently in service. They've got twice our amount of heavy cruisers. It's all pretty bad. But what I want to check is on China, because that ship is... Look at their forces. They've spent all their money. They've spent basically all of their money on a single battleship with 11 17-inch guns. Jesus, this is... I mean, it's not been built yet. But my oh my, this is probably the biggest ship, the biggest battleship, it's probably the biggest ship in the world right now. The Americans have a 42,000. This is crazy. This is the Chinese monster. The Sea Ning class. Okay, sometimes the game is a little bit, let's say, off from historical results, but at least it's hilarious that they've got this kind of ship. That is surprising. Sorry if I can't take that. It's just very interesting. Right, let's see what happens with tensions here. Lots of stuff that we have. That's interesting. Okay, but not too interesting, I suppose. Now, we are running out of money, and I can't really put ships in reserve because tensions with the UK are just way too high here. On the other hand, in just a month, these 2 ships are going to be built, or rebuilt, I should say. That doesn't mean that we're going to get 3 million right now, because these guys are going to get we need to maintain them, basically. But that is interesting. Also notice that we are just about to discover the next director here, which is interesting because we've just fixed our main parameters here on the 1936 model, and you can see here how this affects the stats, showing that we are spending around about 1,000 on these. So yeah, we didn't really save as much as I hoped there, but yeah, there we are. Right, let's hold the construction on our big battleship here for the moment, because we are way too short on money. And our mobilization is not going great. We actually need to mobilize these 3 guys, We could go for fleet exercises or things like that, but I don't think that is something that we want right now. Heavy AA effectiveness is being improved. That's good to see. And here we are. This is our first torpedo bomber that's going to come into effect in 1936, mind you. So all of these guys can carry torpedoes. That's good, as you would kind of expect. All of them can carry the same loadout. They've got slightly different speeds, some of them. What I think I like is the range. 200 is maybe a little bit too little. On the other hand, these guys do have very good toughness. But on the other hand, these guys here, best speed, best range with heavy loadout, so that's including torpedoes. H means a heavy loadout. And we don't know much about the reliability, but the toughness is also pretty good. So yeah, the Kawanashi B8 is going to be our torpedo bombers. And just at the same time, we're getting another torpedo bomber that is being offered as a private venture. Notice toughness is a lot worse. Maneuverability and firepower are about the same, but the range is worth as well, and the speed. So we're going to say no to that, but that's going to be okay. Yeah, Great Britain is very close to going to war with us, so it's good that all of our ships are in active service now. It's not good that we are not really building enough, and we should take a look at the map too, just to identify where the Brits do currently have their ships. Most of them are in Europe, obviously, but some of them are in Southeast Asia. Especially one battleship, 2 heavy cruisers. I don't want to move there because that would eat into our funds, so not right now, but we can increase our cooperation with Italy. 5-year security arrangement with the Soviet Union. I don't think I want that, because budget would be decreased, and honestly I would be happy actually to attack the Soviet Union. Okay, so we can now build catapults on aircraft carriers. That's good. And I think we did have the deck side things, didn't we? So let's check on whether we could upgrade our existing carriers. Our existing carriers are not great, they're very small, but what we could check is whether we can get deck edge lifts, which means readying times would go down. That's really possible, and I suppose we can also add catapults, let's say on 1 and 2 positions. That would make our spotting value slightly better, and we could do a couple of other things, and the question is, are these things going to be worthwhile? Currently we are spending 1.4 million here, right? So that's not a lot of money. We could go for advanced directors. That's $1 million more, and it's only marginally useful because honestly these guys are never supposed to go into true battle, but you know, if they are, it probably makes some sense to get them to be a little bit better, but I don't quite know whether that's going to be super useful. The other big question is, if we were to, let's say, delete D turret and replace it with a dual turret like that, that would drive up costs significantly. So what happens if we clear all turrets and we add turrets on, let's say, CD, this wing, S position, and midships? So let's have centerline. Did I use the centerline wing? Forward centerline, yeah. That needs to be deleted. I did D, right? I should have done E. Yeah, okay, that looks fine. What if I went to 5-inch calibers here? That's a 5 million thing. We could go for dual purpose guns. That would increase our heavy AA by a lot. What if we also went down to 3-inch calibers here? See, well, the costs balloon out of control so quickly. So I don't think we want to change too much about the guns. We could just exchange the guns for the slightly more powerful and modern version, and that wouldn't actually cost us that much, so let's do that. Let's also upgrade the advanced flight director then, add the deck edge lifts. Why is that such a hard thing for me to pronounce? And let's add 2 catapults. That should be a-okay, right? Yeah, it has an arrow belt. That's not something that we can change in a refit. So this would be okay-ish. Relatively cheap refit. would give us better spotting capabilities. Oh, we should definitely think about our AA capabilities. Let's go for Director's version 2. Let's go for, let's say, 24 medium guns. I like to imagine these guys being in quadruple mounts, although I don't think they are technically in game terms. So maybe let's do it like this. Dial this up until the topside load is fine. Yeah, that looks decent. Can we get one more plane in? Yeah, we could. Fantastic. Okay, let's save and finish that. And we're actually going to immediately rebuild that ship and do that on this ship too. You could do that on bulk, but it's not really less clicks this way. Right, so yeah, there we go. Next turn. Let's see. Ooh, Soviet battlecruiser. 9 12-inch guns. Now this is a much more sensible ship, isn't it? It has pretty decent armor. It doesn't have a lot of guns, but decent enough for the time, I think. So, it's not too bad. Our most modern dive bomber is more than 3 years old. We should actually check on our aircraft here. So, yeah, I think the dive bombers are really the next thing to be replaced. They've got good reliability though, so that is not something that I'm as keen of replacing. Now we've got the new float planes, so we should make the old ones obsolete. Now medium bombers have pretty poor reliability. On the other hand, you know what, let's request new dive bomber proposals. I do like range, I do like bomb load, that is what we're going to request here. And move forward. We are making 2.7 million. I think at this point we can do some activation of some of our buildings here. I don't think this is going to be that possible. Well, for a couple of months it is going to be possible, so let's check that out. And in half a year we're going to get the new carrier, so that is going to be fantastic too. Now, by the way, do let me know whether you like the switch on a couple of on these months here. So, okay, we've got too few destroyers to protect our battleships and cruisers. That is kind of true, and I would actually like to have more of these guys. One of our minor allies in the Asian mainland is threatened by a neighbor. What policy do you recommend? We could go for more budget and tensions. Now the issue is I don't know where these tensions would come to, and I'm a little bit concerned that they would be against the UK. So let's try to... And I think the UK even has an alliance with Germany at the moment, curiously enough. So let's try to call an international conference there. We're getting some submarines and some anti-aircraft stuff. That's good. Ranges for cruisers, that's lovely. And better armor quality, better heavy AA stuff. All of this is pretty good. And it is nice that we are not at war with the UK yet. Although I know it would be exciting, but they're not the best to take on first. I think we do need to husband our resources a little bit before that. Now what we should do is actually, you know what, let's actually check on our aircraft types. Yeah, so 3 more turns until we get the torpedo bombers, so let's wait on that. But what I think what we could do is design a new destroyer. We've got too few of these, so let's do the usual thing, and that is we're going to go for auto design here and then check on what we've got. We could go 36 knots with the speed priority. That's fine, I think. Destroyers are a little bit more disposable, and they are going so fast, and they need to go so fast, and then it makes sense to go for speed rather than normal, because that saves a lot of weight actually. So I think that's good. You would have 5-inch guns of dual purpose, only improved directors, but that is usually because destroyers can't use the latest version of that. That changes over time, but I think that's okay. Would that actually be legal design? Yes. It's a pretty heavily gunned design with 5-inch guns. No secondary guns to speak of, relatively heavy AA effectors, and a good number of torpedo tubes, 8 of them. Can we increase them? No, we can only go for 4. Can we add another mount on, let's say, a forward swivel line mount? Would that work? No. Topside limit exceeded? Yeah. Overweight. And we've got a crowded centerline gun and torpedo mounts. That will affect rate of fire. So effectively, the design here is telling us we need to make a decision whether we want to go more gun heavy or more torpedo heavy. I think if we got rid of one of these turrets, that would be fine again. Yeah. Weight would be fine, topside load would be fine, and this would be fine. Now, given that we are a very torpedo heavy nation, I think this makes some sense. Can we go for reloads? That's going to be an awfully lot of weight. Now, a reload would be fantastic, but I don't think that's that useful. We could go for low amount here and save some weight that way. This would be fine. So this would not be a good torpedo, not be a good submarine hunter. But even so, it's not a great one. Only anti-submarine warfare capability 8. And what's the weight here? 16? This is 30. I mean, this is actually okay, right? 6, 7. Let's go for 2 depth charge throwers. That means we've got a weight of 4 remaining here. Nothing else can be really changed here. We could go with less mines. Yeah, so let's forget about mines on these guys. Have all of this stuff ready. Now, that's very little weight remaining, actually. We probably need a little bit more for radar stuff and other sort of improvements over time, potentially better directors. Stuff like that is always going to be useful. Also, heavy AA, that's okay. 2 are fine here. Maybe some more light AA guns. I'm slightly concerned about the weight remaining here, so maybe let's go for 2,400 tons. That leaves us a little bit more. Of course, this is 11 million, but still I think this is gonna be a decent ship. Yeah, so let's save that and finish and build that up. It is gonna take 2 months to do that, and then it's gonna cost us $1 million, but that is gonna be fine, I think. So let's see another Soviet battlecruiser. No, I think that's the same one, isn't it? Let's check on them. Oh, there's by the way, there's one of the other changes that has happened in this game, in the 3rd version, and that is the AI now has not just relations, but these guys can actually go to war. So, for example, tensions between Italy and Soviet Union are pretty high, even higher than what we've got here with the English. So it might well be that they do end up at war, and that means they are actually fighting one another, which I very much love to see, because that is really something new and something that has always been bothering me in the past, that, you know, AI nations are really never ever fighting. By the way, notice that the experience here, slight offset here on these guys, yeah, there we go, is getting better on a lot of these divisions, except for this guy, for example, which has only a poor average, below average commander. These guys therefore have only poor experience. Everyone else is gaining some experience here, even these guys that we called back from reserve. Tensions with the UK are still pretty high, so I'm not that comfortable with getting everyone to be somewhere else. This light cruiser doesn't have a commander. Let's assign a new one, and what I like to do with the light cruisers is get these guys where we don't know much about their capabilities and just find out as they are commanding the ship, because on a light cruiser, to be honest, it's not that bad. Whereas if we find out that, for example, like here, one of our battleships is commanded by a below average commander, that's probably not that great. Torpedoes do more damage. That's lovely indeed. On magnetic stuff, right? We don't use that. Okay, let's do build at least. So this is going to cost us 7. I think building at least 3 destroyers is probably a good idea, even though the money just doesn't support that right now. But in 1 month, we are going to get the battleship done, and I think that's going to be a huge cost saving here. So let's go to that turn and see what we can do there. Improved power MS, penetration improvement. Ooh, and we've got now improved 4-inch guns, so they've got a slightly better quality now, which is lovely to see. And we've got a new torpedo aircraft now. That's also good. We can now deploy that. And that means we should also take a look at the aircraft menu over here. And that is especially on these guys here, on these carriers, on the carriers that we currently have. We are fielding 36 aircraft in 4 squadrons of 9 aircraft each. We could field up to 46. So let's add another air unit here of 10. That might make sense. And let's have that be torpedo bombers. I'm slightly concerned about the number of fighters here. I think that's a little bit low. So let's go for 8 torpedo bombers, 8 dive bombers. And honestly, I'm actually going to change these guys here too. So we're going to change their role to be also torpedo bomber of 8 planes. So that means we've now got 42. So that means we've got, what, 4 more. So we're going to change the number of fighters here to 22 in total, which I think is better. So this was a very historical scenario where about a third of the aircraft was fighters initially in World War II, and at the end of the war was basically 2/3 fighters. So just because people noticed that you just need that many. So yeah, let's go for torpedo bombers. 8 I think is fine. We're going to change this number to 8. 8. What did we say? 11, right? Yeah, I think that was the case. Right, yeah, that to me makes a little bit more sense. We should also think about our naval air squadrons here in a moment, but that's going to be fine. I also do think that torpedo bombers are slightly better for Japan, not just because they were historically, but Japan has that benefit which allows you to do surprise attacks. And surprise attacks happen against ships at harbor, and they are not yet steaming. They are stationary, and dive bombers, I think, are devastating against them. So, yeah, I think, torpedo bombers are devastating against them. Dive bombers are, of course, good too, and they are more likely to hit that, but especially torpedo bombers. So, and I think on the raid on Toronto, you could see that torpedo bombers did by far the most damage. Even in Pearl Harbor, yes, you had stuff like the Arizona, but torpedo bombers still did an awful lot of damage there. So yeah, I think that's a good one. I'm also going to check out these naval squadrons here and these air bases, and I'm going to do that off camera to make sure that these guys are set up properly, especially as they are costing us a lot of money. Naval aircraft are more than research even. We could actually think about reducing the research at some point, but not now. Ooh, a monthly balance here is an issue, so let's halt the construction on our carrier here just for a turn as we are finishing up the Yashima, which hopefully is going to be good. Submarines are going to be more reliable, nice. New dive bomber prototypes are ready for evaluation too. Max speed is somewhat the same. Range is going to be much, much better. That I like. And the bomb load is going to be better, at least on the heavy bomb load. So we can carry more further. I like that. How about these guys? Toughness is not as high as I would like, but maneuverability is. Air combat. Damage. Firepower? Air combat. So the 10 would be really lovely, but the range really is lacking there. So I think the Kawasaki is going to be a good one. Pro-Soviet coup in Finland. Interesting. I think that means... Does that actually mean that you now control Finland? Yes, it does. And by the way, China is now communist. We also know that. Right, ships under construction. Why are you not being constructed? Is that a bug? No, there we are. Okay, it's now commissioned. That doesn't mean it's worked up yet, but it is interesting. Ooh. Well, notice that, the UK, we are very much in a bad position here. So, I think budget, prestige, tensions go up a lot. That would guarantee that we are at war. But we can't go with less prestige. Let's do it. Heavier depth charges. Better 7-inch guns. Only quality 0 now, so it's still good. But we are above the threshold, so it's very, very likely that we will end up at war against the United Kingdom very soon. So let's try to get our aircraft carrier done, because I would really like that. Can we accelerate that? We could, but it really doesn't do much. So it would still only take 2 months, so that's not going to be that useful. We're going to resume the construction of the light cruiser 2. and potentially one of the heavy ones. No, I think we're going to halt the construction of that too. It's probably wastage to have all of these being built at the same time, but still, it's going to be okay. Right, so you can see we've got the new battleship here. It is currently working up, so it is it has poor crew quality. We could immediately use it, but it's simply not going to happen. Not right at this moment, but it is a decent ship. We should actually check whether we need to rebuild it immediately. No. Advanced directors, that's fine. We could do with a little less topside, actually. That's not great. It does have 2 airplanes, which I dislike, but no torpedoes, so that's at least okay. Yeah, and it is a decent ship. I like it. Potentially the 3 caliber guns are a little bit too much right now. Yeah, you can see the AA is a little bit overburdened by shooting all of these things, but you know what? That's fine. Let's get a commander to this guy, and we, in this case, because it's definitely one of our best ships, we can check whether we've got anyone who would want to be there. For example, this guy here, who's a gunnery expert. Oh, but more importantly, this guy here, brilliant and a gunnery expert. You, sir, are going to be the commander of this ship, and this ship is also, of course, going to go into Battle Division 1, so we're going to add a ship to that, and not only that, but we actually do make this the flagship of this squadron. So these guys are certainly the best, and this 45,000 ton battleship is by far the most capable ship that we've got, but nothing compared to the Chinese monster. Now that being said, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I do hope to see you around next time. We're probably going to go to war against Great Britain, which is a really, really scary prospect. We do have a similar amount in tonnage of battleships, actually, for the moment, although they have 1 more. But the carriers, man. The carriers are the big issue here. These 66,000 tons, that does count the carrier that we're currently building. So that's not great. That's not great at all. Also we should, just as the last thing here, let's actually use magnetic pistols on torpedoes. It increases the dot rate, but if the target damage is increased, I kind of like that idea. And especially as we are already using this stuff. Elite training on pilots, no, I think we are good. Although, I think what this does is it changes the quality of your pilots, but it does mean that you get drained faster. So you're not as good in a long-term war, but you are a little bit better in a shorter war. So I think this is going to be a good choice here. Do we want to do this? Damage control. It is super useful. It is useful, but we're not going to do that for now. Did that register these changes? Yes, it did. So that's good. Right. Thank you very much for watching. See you around next time, guys. Bye-bye.